All right, so preference schedule, 3 candidates, and we'll do plurality with elimination. So remember, plurality with elimination is going to be done in rounds, right? Round 1, round 2, round 3. Round 1 is basically a regular plurality election where you just count up the first place votes for round 1. However, in a regular plurality election, whoever has the most first place votes wins, regardless of whether or not it's a majority or not. So with plurality, you don't need a majority. You just need the most. Plurality with elimination, we basically conduct a plurality election, but we don't stop until one candidate has a majority. Okay, and so if we don't have a majority, then at the end of a round, what we do is eliminate whatever candidate has the least number of votes at that point. Okay, so when excuse me, when I just did the border method, at the end, once I had all my points, I wanted to know how many points there were total in the election. So I ended up figuring out the total number of voters. With plurality with elimination, that's actually the first thing I want to do. And I guess in general, you can always do that right off the bat. It's good to know. But here, I need to know that even before I start, because I need to know when I'm going to stop. I need to know what is the minimum requirement to have a majority. Okay? So total here, 5 plus 4 is 9, and 7 is 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23. Okay? So there's 23 voters in this election. So then, to decide how many I need for a majority, remember, if I cut something in half, then I'm finding exactly half, or exactly 50%, but I need more than 50% to have a majority. So the way I typically do it is 23 divided by 2. Since 23 is an odd number, I'm going to get a decimal here, right? I'm going to get 11.5. So in that case, that tells me I must round up, right? Because you can't have half of a vote. If you had an even number, let's say I had 26 voters total. So if I had 26 voters, 26 divided by 2 gives me exactly 13. But 13 votes, that's not a majority, because that's not more than half. That's exactly half. And so in this case, I just not really round up, but move up to the next whole number. And same idea here. Here I'm going to move up to the next whole number, which is 12. Okay? So for this, so if it's even and you divide by 2, you get a whole number, but you've got to go more than that to have a majority. If it's odd, you get a decimal, and so just go to the next whole number, and you're good. And let's think about why 12 works. Because if there's 23 voters, then if I've got 12, then that means the next candidate at most could have 11, right? Because that adds up to the 23. And now I beat them. I've got more than they do. So when it comes down to a two-person competition, if you've got more than half, now you're going to win. Okay? So 12 is the minimum requirement to achieve a majority. It's possible, like once I eliminate somebody, maybe I'll go from 11 votes to like 13 votes. But then 13 is a majority. So that's the minimum necessary for a majority. Okay, round 1. So we set up round 1. I like to list every candidate, A, B, C. Okay, and so as a video, if you're watching this once I post it, you might be watching it in different orders. In class, what we just did was a border method. And the border method, remember I said show all the work, right? We want the work to tell the story of what happened. Same idea here. So some folks are tempted to say, oh, A, so what we're doing in round 1 is looking at first place votes. So some folks are tempted to say A has 5 plus 4, which is 9, and then they just write a 9 here. What I want to see you write is 5 plus 4 equals 9. All right, and it's not a whole lot of work, but just show that just to tell the story. Now I see these two numbers tell me there were 2 columns where the A's came from with their first place votes. B has 7 and 2. So 7 plus 2 also equals 9. And C, in the first place votes, only has 5. Okay. I like to always double check things as I go. So there's 23 voters altogether. Here I've got 9 and 9 is 18 and 5 makes 23, right? So they're all accounted for right there already. So I happen to have a tie. So if we were just doing regular old plurality election, there's really no winner for regular plurality because we have a tie for first place. However, when we're doing plurality with elimination, I don't even care about that. What I ask myself right now is there a majority? So usually I just write MAJ, but just for completion, let's write the word majority with a question mark. do I have a majority? In other words, is there a majority candidate? Does any candidate here have more than half of all the votes? And the answer is no, though, because we would need 12 first place votes to have a majority. So the answer is no. The most I have is 9. And so that means we eliminate who's ever in last place. All right, so eliminate, in this case, C, right? 9, 9, 5. C's got the least. So eliminate C. All righty. So this example is going to end real quick. We're only going to have 2 rounds here. And how do I know that? Because now we embark on round 2. So round 1, basically look at a plurality election, but then ask yourself, do we have a majority? If not, you eliminate the bottom. If there was a tie for last place, let's say D was also present and D also had 5 votes, then you would eliminate both of those. So you eliminate who's ever in last place, in this case C. So now that we've done that, there's a couple things you could do. If you've written this out on paper and the only thing you're going to do with this preference schedule is a plurality with elimination method, then you could go through and cross off every single instance of C. All right, so you could do that, and that's actually probably better. That's probably a good thing to do. Sometimes, though, let's say I was going to do plurality with elimination, but then later I was going to do like a Borda method, and I didn't want to mess up my preference schedule. Then I don't want to necessarily write everything. But one thing I like to do is at least, since I eliminated C, let me at least go through the first row and circle that one, right? And so again, I could circle or cross out all those because C is completely out of the election. It's like he was not popular, so he dropped out. So now it's between A and B. At least by crossing it or circling it or whatever from the first column, the first row, now I know that these 5 voters, they can't vote for C anymore, right? They can't vote for C because C dropped out. So then they're going to vote for the next person down. With only 3 candidates, not too much is going to happen. But if I had more candidates, let's say later down the line, B ended up getting eliminated. A reason why you might want to cross off or cancel all the C's is just to remind yourself or remember throughout your process. It's once C is out, C is out. And so if these 7 people, for some reason, if B dropped out and they could not vote for B, then they still can't vote for C because C's gone. So then they'd have to transfer down to their 3rd place and so forth. So that becomes a little bit more important if you've got more candidates. But that's the idea. So round 1, majority no, eliminate C, start round 2, and now C's not in it. So A has, so I'm just going to go down the column again. These 5 people vote for A. So 5 votes, first place votes for A. These 4 people vote for A, so +4. These 7 vote for B, so nothing to write here. These 2 vote for B as their first choice. And these 5 who can't vote for C anymore, now they vote for B. Right? So they're gonna do their 2nd place person. So A only still, they didn't get any more points by this elimination. So 5 + 4 is still equal to 9. Okay. But B, how many does B have now? So these 7 voters liked B originally, and these 2 voters liked B originally. So that's those people. But now these 5 voters can't vote for C anymore. So they have to go to their next favorite person or next favorite candidate, which in this case is B. And so then we get another 5 votes for B. Okay? 7 and 7 makes 14. Let me just sort of mentally double check. 14 and 9 is 23. So I've got my total right there. That's it. And so again, just because I had these only 3 candidates, this happened to be short. Now I ask myself, majority. Do I have a majority? And now the answer is yes, because now I've got 14 votes. That's 12 or greater, right? That's at least my majority. So yes. Who's the majority winner? B, right? So B is our winner. Alrighty, and that's that. If I didn't have a majority in round 2, then you just eliminate the bottom and the lowest amount of votes at that moment in this round, and then move on again, right? So if I had to eliminate another person, just cross them all off and then just step through it again. So that's the way the process works. Let me just mention while I'm doing this, the complete ranking. Complete ranking of these 3 candidates based on this method. Well, B is our winner. So B, of course, comes out first. Who was 2nd place? Who was B competing with right here? A, right? A was still in the game. A hadn't dropped out. So A is there. And then the person who, and the very last one in this complete ranking is the person who got eliminated first. In this case, C. All right. There we go.